Hello everyone and welcome back. My name's XFerginatorX and we are back with another YouTube video for you today. Today we're going to be covering another Controversies video, this one covering the competitive ranking between arena versus level ranking. Competitive ranking was introduced to us in Halo 2 and it helped line up players a little more balanced in matchmaking so that they were on an equal scale. And over time, over the years, it's changed and there has been a divide that's developed because of these different kinds of rankings that certain people like over others, and it's caused two different kinds of groups, ones that like level based ranking and others that like arena ranked basing. And because of that, it's caused quite a few controversies with lots of discussions, you could say, about which system is better. And so because of that, you have people that want to go back to an old traditional level ranking system, and then you have others that want to keep with the arena ranking system. And because of that, obviously there's this big argument between it. Both systems do have, good advantages to them, but also people that, are in support of it tend to, ignore the flaws that occur with both of these. So I'm going to cover that, what the flaws and the advantages are of each of these ranking systems, how they developed over the time, and, give my kind of like constructive point of view on which one is the better one to go with, that might be better for Halo Infinite and onward. I'm gonna be straight off honest with this. Even though I do play a lot of competitive games, I'm not as down to the crunch numbers, over the top competitive person that sits there and sits and diagnoses every little number and how it should work and whatnot. Everyone has their own little like formula that they think that will be better balanced. I'm not necessarily here to give out which numbers and whatnot I think are balanced. I'm just going to give out what I think might be a better way of the system working and how it lines people up, and which one we should rather go with, level or arena, or some kind of mix here. And I'm gonna start off from the very beginning of where it all came from. So let's start off with where competitive ranking first started off at, and that was with Halo 2. Halo 2 was the very first one we ever saw a ranking system. Actually, Halo CE did not have a ranking system because it didn't even have matchmaking. In fact, the only way you actually lined up with players was in a custom game browser kind of thing that we have now, but it was just called a server browser in the custom edition, and you just join people in there and whatnot, and that was pretty much how you kind of did it. You had the custom edition or even just regular CE multiplayer, just you selected and joined. There was no actual competitive balance, and so because of that, people wanted to see a balanced way of playing now that online was becoming a big thing. And so they added in a system called the level rank system 1 through 50. It was a really cool system, and it was really cool was the last 7 ranks in the game were not even numbered. They were actually rather replaced with symbols, and if you got that Halo ring, you got that 50, that was like you were a boss in that game. You were just the badass if you had a 50, and it was no easy feat to do. I don't have it, I've never gotten it, but I knew how difficult it was to get just from playing Halo 2 back in the day and how hard the ranking was back then. It's no easy task to get to a 50. If you get to a 50, you're like pro skill pretty much, because that is difficult. The way the system worked was based on a multitude of factors. It wasn't just whether or not you won or not, or how many kills you got. It was based on a lot of factors. Your KD, your win-loss, rank and population, and so forth. There was a lot of factors that went into your rank, and it was the hardest system to rank up in any Halo game. It's to this day, none of the other ones that did a 1 through 50 system ever came close to a Halo 2's ranking system to get a level 50. That was really hard to do because it was based on your team and personal statistics. But with that also, though, there were some flaws. You could go 2 weeks straight of winning. You never lose a match. You played, super try hard with your team and went for that, win every time, and yet still never rank up. Your other, teammates might rank up, but you didn't. And you know why? Because it wasn't just based on winning. You could, win a week straight, no losses, nothing, and never go up because your KD was bad. their KD wasn't on par enough to go up. There was, you know, a problem of being so competitive, you would, you know, just refuse to even play with your friends, because if you wanted to get that 50, you were gonna have to be willing to make sure that you need to win every time, and you had to always warm up beforehand. You'd play a couple of custom games, and then you jump in and try and get that 50. It was super competitive back then. People really wanted to get their 50s, but they were really difficult. They were not something they just handed out freely, and so that's what made it really difficult. It also kind of, again, was the down factor, because by the time you got 50, once you got a 50, you didn't touch that multiplayer anymore. You were done. You're like, I got my 50, I'm good. And that's how it was. That's also, again, that was one of the bad factors about it. Then it came into Halo 3. They brought the 1 through 50 system back, but instead they got rid of the symbols, because some people, you know, had, you know, some small gripes with not being able to see the numbers. They wanted to see the numbers because back then you didn't have, you know, the luxury of the internet the way it was back then, and so people couldn't see, you know, what they meant. Like, what does this symbol mean? So you forgot kind of when you got through the last 7 ranks where you were at on this the system. You didn't know if you were at a level 47 or at a 45, because all you had were these suns and moons and whatnot, so you had no idea where you were at. So they went back to the 1 through 50. They also changed some factors in how they ranked you up, so it'd be a little more friendly, so you could rank up easier with win losses and so forth, which it made it less stressful to play, so it would be easier to get to your 50s. Not too easy, but still, you know, easier than normally. But that's the thing, because it did that, to make it easier than the Halo 2 system, it came with same issues with it and more. The big one still was, once you got to your 50, you stopped playing. Once you got a 50, you were done. You weren't going to play any more matchmaking in that playlist anymore, because you wanted to hang on to that 50. No one will play with their 50s. That's the thing. It's the truest thing. Most people that had 50s wouldn't play theirs. Once they got it, they never touched it again. And in matchmaking, in that specific playlist, because they did not want to lose it. That's why everyone ended up playing in Lone Wolves, because it was the best way to play, because you didn't want to, if you want to still play with your friends and play ranked games, you didn't want to have a playlist that was already taken up. You didn't want it to be like Team Snipers or something. If you want to play with your friends and you're like, well, I got my 50, I don't want to lose it. So obviously the smart thing was to play it with a free-for-all in Lone Wolves, which unfortunately was a playlist that I used to play a lot. And so because of that, there was, you know, constantly finding, you know, these people that were getting sweaty and trying to constantly dominate in that game mode all the time, and it kind of got frustrating, which brings us to some other issues that would happen, you know, because again, Lone Wolves, there was a lot of ways you can rank up. Lone Wolves was also the best, because if you got top third place or whatnot, that would still count as more than half, and if you were more than half, you would actually still have the possibility of ranking up until you got higher up. Then when you got higher up, you had to actually end up in the ones and twos, so it actually did matter a little bit more. And then once, you know, you got your 50, you quit playing, you never touched the game again, at least that multiplayer game mode list. But with that, two other major factors, two other issues that happened besides, you know, Halo 2 and Halo 3, once people got 50, they stopped playing. The other two factors here was that people could, there was a problem with the ranking system because of how they made it a little bit easier. Think of, you know, 1 out of 2 is 50%, 50 out of 100 is still 50%. So, you know, if I say you need to get to a 67% in out of that 1 out of 2, all you gotta do is win 1 and you got 2 out of 3. But if I say you need to get 67 out of the 50 out of 100, you have to do 17 more wins right there. So that was thing, you know, see how you have to do more work. Well, that's what happened, was what they called level locking back in the day. And anyone out there, I'm sorry if I'm going to swear a little bit in this video. I'm not going to edit it out, because I don't feel like going through and editing this, because it might be pretty lengthy of this video. So any person out there, because this used to exist back in the day, but I'm just going to say it now, anyone out there who says that level locking wasn't real, that it didn't happen, you're an idiot. You're just straight up the biggest fucking idiot out there, because I am just sick and tired of hearing that. I've heard it so many times back in the days of Halo 3. Level locking was a thing, and it was really, really fucking annoying, because once you got too many match-made games in, it took way longer to rank up. Back in the day, if you were actually, you could hit the mark every time, get first place in Lone Wolves, you could get a good KD, and you always hit the score. You didn't just win because the time ran out. You hit the actual score limit. All those factors in there. If you hit all those things, you could actually get to a rank 50 in less than 50 matches, which caused, again, two problems: boosters and level locking. Boosters were people that bought new accounts. They'd rank them all the way up because they could do it really fast, and once they got their 50, they sold it to some little Jimmy piece of shit that would actually buy it. You know, those little fuckers that can't actually earn their stuff. They're like little 12-year-old kids that talk about, oh look, I'm a 50, I'm really good at this game, but in reality they just bought it off of some dude, and you know, the parents like, oh yeah, we'll give you some Microsoft points, and you know, they buy it and they act like they legitimately got it, when in fact, in reality, all they did was they bought it off of some dude that actually did all the work. And then the other problem was level locking. You play too many games, it became harder to rank up. You know, you like win 2 or 3 games, you go up a rank. You know, you lose 1 or 2, you go down. Nope. When you get to where I am, where it got really frustrating, was I won, I have to win like 4 or 5 or even 6 matches to go up 1. And if I lose like 2, I go back down. It is so irritating that it's just, you can't get up there. We're stuck at like, I think we end up quitting off at around 40. It's just like, we can't get up. It just, every time, it's just requiring us to win 5 or 6 games straight. If we lose 2, we go back down. So it's just like, it's really stressful because the fact that it takes more work for me to have to go up 1 rank, and then you have all these other people that are just ranking up super fast, and it got annoying. And that's 2 of the big problems that happened with Halo 3's. They wanted to, you know, still be, you know, not as stressful as Halo 2's ranking system, but they didn't want it to be so easy when it came to Halo 3's ranking system, just because unfortunately it was just so abused back in the day that you know, people would buy Smurf accounts, rank them up, and sell them to, you know, that piece of shit squeaker 10-year-old motherfucker who would actually you know, get his parents to give some Microsoft points so he could buy an account and not actually have to earn his 50. And that just pissed off a lot of people, especially me. Even just thinking about that pissed me off, because how many people used to brag about saying that they earn their 50s, and then I'd be like, hey, you want a 1v1 and see how good you are? And of course they go, no, I'm too good for you. I got my 50. You have to get your 50. You want to verse me and whatnot. And they would always BS their way out of the conversation because they knew that they couldn't actually play good. They just bought it from someone. It's like just like some SpongeBob motherfucker who, you know, looks like he has big, tough, you know, ripped arms, but in reality, when it came to actually, you know, having to prove it and not just look like it, they couldn't walk the walk. They were all just talk. They just bought their accounts, and that's what, you know, that's what pissed people off. They, you know, exposed a big problem in the design of the ranking system, and even people would back out of lobbies too back in the day, so that they wouldn't lose their ranks. If they saw like it wasn't a good matchup, they'd back out immediately, and that's again, it caused a lot of frustration, and it, you know, when people stopped playing, level locking and boosting and so forth, there was a lot of issues, and people had a lot of complaints about that, the abuse of the ranking system. So that's where Reach comes in. Reach originally launched in with absolutely no competitive system the day it came out. There was no way to balance the matchmaking because there was just like progressive ranking systems and nothing else at first. They later did add in an update, a competitive ranking system called the Arena, which was to address a lot of these issues that the Halo 3 ranking system had. It was designed to combat, you know, all these boosters and level locking issues and people never playing their 50s again once they thought, oh, once I get to it, I'll never have to play again. Well, they realized that that's the problem. They want people to keep playing that matchmaking and not, you know, just run off and say once they got to the top rank, they quit. So what they did was they designed it so that there was these seasons, and then after the seasons ran out, the ranks would reset. And so this would keep it so that people could always keep playing. There would be no like getting to max rank and never playing again, or selling the boosted account to a little Jimmy piece of shit, you know, selling him an Onyx rank, and you never get stuck at a rank at all because it would always reset. And because of this new system, even though it just solved a lot of those issues, it also caused a lot of other issues. Unfortunately, with that, it's just unfortunately one trade over the other. Even though this season, you know, even the seasons weren't perfect that they had in Reach, unfortunately, they didn't always have a new one ready to go after the next one reset, which was really, you know, annoying at first. I think they eventually fixed it later on, but it was just really annoying that you're like, when are they going to do the next arena and whatnot? Also, there was only 5 ranks, and so instead of 1 through 50, which was more diverse in ranking people, 5 ranks was just not enough to really tell whether a person was legitimate. You could be a good silver player, or you could be a terrible silver player. And it's just that made for too much openness right there where you lined up, and so people got really frustrated about that because it felt like it still wasn't balanced enough, which they do have a point there. So then in Halo 4, they tried to bring that 1 through 50 system back to kind of because people really wanted it, because they had such a gripe with it in Halo Reach. So they did come out with a CSR ranking system, which I also believe did not launch when the game came out as well. Just like Halo Reach, it was something that I think was later added in, and there was only just a progressive ranking system. But in order to try and combat some of the issues that again happened with people buying accounts and selling them to little jimmies and whatnot and so forth, because they still wanted the 1 through 50 diversity of better lining up, but at the same time there was issues of trying to address all those gripes that Halo 3's ranking system had, but still have a system that you can still rank up easily and match up more properly. So what they did was they made it so that the only way you could see your ranks was you had to go to Halo Waypoint to see your ranks. Yeah, it was that was not really just the best idea. It was just, I guess, something they just thought of that would just work temporarily, but it just was not good to say, hey, I'm a 50, yeah, you just gotta check my Halo Waypoint account. It's just people want to actually be able to see that, and since there was less transparency of how this ranking system worked too, certain playlists were affected differently. Yeah, you think it's just a simple 1 through 50 and the way that it works in every single game mode is the same, but in actuality it turns out that there's actually 2 different ways the CSR system would go. Some entirely were based on yourself as a either win or lose situation. If your team won or lost, you'd go up or down. That's how they did it. Then there was one that was entirely individual. It was not based on teams. It was whether they won or lost. It was based on your individual play. And yet this was on some team games or some team playlists. So because of that, it caused all sorts of issues of knowing whether or not you were going up or down. And so it caused kind of a lot of confusion there, because you can't see your ranks, and certain playlists ranked you differently and how they calculated everything, and so there was just no way to see and whatnot. It made it very, like, most people don't even know that there is a CSR system. When I asked them, they didn't even know Halo 4 had a ranking system. That's just how it was, just so like non-existent. People didn't even know it existed at all. And another problem with this, also, the ones that were individually based actually took less time because they're based off of leaderboards versus trying to win. Wins actually took longer to rank up in. And also, on top of that, Halo 4 introduced JIP, or join in progress. So a lot of other issues that pro players had was joining into a match where it was already losing. They tried to compensate by saying, like, I think it was like either a 60-second or 90-second mark of JIP in these ranked playlists, and they wouldn't actually line you up in any of those playlists that had been going on for longer than that, just to try and avoid getting matched up in a game where it was just, there was no hope, and then you were going to be having to face your rank getting dropped even though you got a really bad team that you got joined in with. So solo queuing was pretty much not a good idea to do, and so that pissed off a lot of pro players that just want to be able to jump in and play it, and they end up with that. A lot of people even argue that they wanted to have an option of not joining, of not having a JIP option, where when you go search, it only puts you in matches that are going to start from the beginning. And there was a slew of other issues, but I'm not going to go too far into it. I'm just covering each one as it went along. So then in Halo MCC, oh man, where do I start with this one? Okay. So I'm going to brush over real quick, to be honest. There's just too much to go into. They originally said, oh, we're going to bring in the Halo 2 ranking system to pay homage to it. So a bunch of people got all hyped up like, yeah, we're getting the Halo 2 ranking system. And it was just broken as hell. People found exploits of like disconnecting. So what they do is disconnect at the last second, and then at a certain moment they reconnect. And so it would remove everyone from the match, and you'd be the one there. So it would be thinking as if everyone just quit the match and you're the last one standing. So it would count as you winning, and that was really bad. There was also host booting, where if you ended up being the host in the game, for a short moment of time someone found this out, that if you're the host, you can actually boot everyone off the other team, and that was another issue. And then on top of that, if that wasn't enough, you could actually report players and block them, and what that would do is not only hurt them from not finding any matches as easily if they got a bad reputation over time, but it would make it so that you never line up with them. And the idea of it was pretty cool. It's just, unfortunately, it was abused. People would actually report good players so that they wouldn't line up with them, and then that way they could end up only getting lined up with people that are below them. And so that's how another way that they found a way to rank up, which they eventually fixed. But yeah, there was just unfortunately a lot of issues, and sadly, even after they fixed all those, it didn't end there. Oh boy, you ranked up even if you quit. Even if you quit the game, but your team won, it still counted as a win for you because you were in the match, even if you quit. So it's like nothing like the original Halo 2 system. It was just terrible. Also, they applied this to multiple playlists, including big team battles and stuff like that, which never made any sense. And so with Halo MCC being so buggy at launch, it made it so unplayable that it was hard to even find people because most people had left. So you have this BTB search system trying to look for ranks, and yet most people weren't even playing the game anymore. So eventually they got rid of that for anything that was a social playlist because there was no point to having it after, and then later on they ended up fixing it. There were many other issues overall. I'm just going over this thing, just brushing up on some notable ones, but that's it for Halo CE, or not CE, Halo MCC for the most part. Then in Halo 5, they decided to go back to the arena system, and they revamped it in a big way with the CSR when it came to competitive Spartan ranks. And now instead we had 7 ranks instead of 5 ranks. Ooh, two big extra ranks there, you guys. Don't use them all in one place. Just kidding though. They actually had tiers for each one of them, so you had 6 for each one going up these. And that was just only again for like bronze to diamond. Once you got from diamond into onyx, then it was based entirely off of your CSR score. Now you aren't just playing to win the game, you are being compared to other players. If you manage to go from the into the onyx section, you end up getting into the 200s, then you become the MVP rank, and now you're ranked out of the top 200 players of that playlist. And when you finally do get to the very top after 2 months of playing this, and the season finally ends, it's gone, and you have nothing to show for it. So all that hard work just gets wiped away at the end, which unfortunately there are some people that just don't like that. That's why they like the 1 through 50 system, because they just don't like it getting wiped away at the very end. People also noted because of the arena ranks, there must be a hidden rank system somewhere in order for them to actually know where you're lining up at, where you are on this leaderboard and whatnot, where you match up with everyone else. So some people dove into this hidden rank system that also apparently works in non-ranked games as well, like Warzone in BTB, where Luke the Notable did a video on explaining the MMR, which was pretty cool. So they actually turned out there was this matchmaking rank system that actually existed instead on ranking you, that was hidden. That's something you can't actually see, versus the arena ranking system that was CSR, which worked entirely differently. Others have criticized it though, because it doesn't seem like it properly lines you up correctly. This one person, I'm not sure if I said his name correctly, a YouTuber named Presilence or something like that. Persilence, I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, did a video on this as well, talking about how it was not lining you up fairly. It was doing that system that I would pretty much call backpacking, where basically if you're a really good player, they line you with a bunch of really bad players, and then you feel like you're just dragging them through the entire process. And so think of it like a 1 out of 10 ranking system. Like, think of it like that, and you're a 10, you're a pro gamer and whatnot, and then you're getting lined up with like a bunch of 2s and 3s, and then the other team is filled up with like 5s and 7s. So they're not as good as you, but they just happen to all be good enough that they make up a good majority of the player base, and now they're dominating and you're just being put in this really crappy team to even out the numbers, and you're just getting smoked every time, and it's just not even fair because most of those people are just dragging ass the entire way. The system still, reset every 2 months and whatnot when it came to the ranking system, but the MMR actually resets every day. So basically both systems actually reset on their own. So when you start a game, you know how one day you're good, you start up, you're really in the zone, you're doing great, the next day you're not doing so well. That's what the MMR was supposed to kind of do, was how every time you get on, you might be playing at a different level, so you could match up with people like in a better silver or diamond and whatnot. You could line up with people that were more on your scale because your MMR might not be necessarily that high. You may be in that silver ranking, but you may not actually be in your zone that day, and that's the thing. And so that's what the MMR was supposed to compensate for. But because of such issues and gripes that a lot of the people had with the arena ranking situation, the issues that they were having, it felt like people were being put out of their ranks into the wrong ranks. Like, for example, me, I was constantly lining up with MVP players in SWAT. Not too long ago, a couple months back, it just absolutely got frustrating. I'm like, why am I lining up with the #1 player in the world of SWAT and I'm only a diamond player? It's like that just irritated me. It's like, unless I'm an MVP player, do not put me in the same category as this guy. This is ridiculous. He should only be playing against other MVPs. And so that was something really annoying, because even though I was doing well, it was stupid because I was doing so well, they were putting me in the ranking system of #1 in the world, and I just did not like that, because this guy is super good at the game and I'm not on the same level as him, and that's ridiculous why I'm lining up with him. So it didn't feel balanced at all. It felt really annoying, and a lot of people like myself disliked it. So now we have, this issue now that's causes great divide of two different ranking systems. You have the nostalgic competitive fans that love the level ranking system that existed in Halo 2 that they feel is the true skill ranking system, while you have the esport Halo 5 competitive ranks fans that love the Halo 5 CSR arena ranking system. Both have their pros and cons, as we just went over here. Halo 2 had a very strict but a very accurate ranking system that punished you if you lost. It was really a punishing system that felt really rewarding when you got a high rank, because you actually really felt like you actually earned it, because it was just almost impossible to get that top rank. And then you have Halo 5 that's trying to address all the exploits that would happen, because apparently even in Halo 2 there was boosters apparently that existed as well. So you had boosters and people not playing the ranks, and then you had Halo 3's level capping or level locking issues. So there were just a lot of issues with that, and they didn't want people selling their accounts at the same time, so they were trying to address that. But at the same time, they people want to actually see an actual rank. They don't want to see just a medal, but they want to know where they stand out compared to everyone else. And they also want to be able to have a number next to their name and actually see, like, oh, I'm a 45 or something like that. They want to know where they're at. So I feel like Halo 3's hidden rank system made it so people felt like they were not lining up properly, and it caused frustration because they can't actually see where they're being compared. Personally, I feel that the MMR actually should be visible, so that I feel like I know that I'm being matched fairly to other people. But now it comes down to Halo Infinite and onward. What do we do about this? We have two different communities that are so divided on this that it's become a huge controversy between the two, and you constantly see these arguments go on. They're probably not the biggest arguments, but you definitely see this controversy going on. Again, this is from my viewpoint. This is just my take on it. I'm not going to sit here and run a bunch of numbers and get all nerdy out on everyone. I don't want to even get into all that. I'm just here to kind of give maybe a generalization of how the ranking system should be, in a way to kind of please a lot of people, but it still works, and it's not trying to divide the community up into multiple ways of wanting to get ranked. Again, I don't like that idea of trying to please everyone by making separate things, and then you have like a multitude of things. and it makes it too confusing. We need to have one system that people actually can understand how it works. And again, there's no way to satisfy everyone. There's going to be people that are going to still be stuck on the Halo 5's arena system is the better one, and then you have the other people that say that the Halo 2's level system is the better one. My personal thoughts on this, seeing all the valid points that both sides have some good valid points on this issue, and so when it comes down to it, I say neither of them, and that what we really need to do is mix it up. I think what we need to do here is actually combine the system. That's what I personally think would actually be a better way of going here, is a way to properly combine it, because the MMR has something going for it that I think would actually be pretty interesting here that we could actually use to our advantage when it comes down to it. So maybe it's a little bit more on the arena side, but here's my take on it. I believe that they should turn the CSR that was called competitive Spartan rank, and we should just, call it competitive skill rank. And then what we do here is a two-parter for the true skill ranking system: the MMR and the CSR. The CSR should be something for the arena ranks that line you up in the groups that you get into arena matches with. No one, goes above or below you. They have to be in that arena rank. So if it's a silver, you only line up with silvers. That's just how it is. And no one outside of the CSR, can, get on the same thing. So if you're silver, you're not going to get lined up with bronze or gold players. You're all going to be silvers. So it feels like you're actually in the actual playlist that you should be in. The MMR itself is just used as a way to find people that are high ones or low ones of that current arena system. So if you're like a 300 MMR in a silver, you're not gonna get lined up with like a 500, and you're not gonna get lined up with a 100. You're gonna get lined up with people that are also 300 MMR that are silver ranks. So it kind of feels a lot more natural in how you rank up, and I think that would be a better way of actually making that arena system work. And also, because of the MMR being used in social playlists still, because they want to still have some sort of balance, even though it's kind of interesting to even have it in Warzone, even though Warzone is just completely not even designed to be balanced. But I think what they should do is make it visible, and that's how how people can see how they're lining up. With the MMR, it's actually present, and you can actually see that in social playlists, Warzone, Firefight, however it is that you're lining up with. Because it would be nice to know that when I play Firefight, I'm actually playing with some people that I'm not going to have to haul their ass to get things done, and that it actually kind of maybe acts like a Halo 2 style of ranking 1 through 50, but it doesn't ever reset. But what I think we should do with that is make it so that there's no cap at all. You can go as high as you want playing, and there's just no way to just cap out. Personally, I feel like that's the best way to go about it. The cap is what has caused most of these issues. With once you get to the top rank, you're like, I'm done playing. And then when you have the what's it called? The boosters, they can't do that anymore because there's no way to get there. And adjust the system in a way so that there's no way to get once you play too many games, you start level locking. That's just not going to happen. And I swear, if some son of a bitch says that there's no such thing as level locking in Halo 3, I'm gonna beat them with their own controller, because that is just a load of crap. There is level locking in that game. It just, again, that just irritates me when people used to say that there was no such thing, when if I know for a fact playing it was constant. But yeah, the MMR should be infinite, kind of go with the name Halo Infinite. It would be perfect for it though, because it would actually be based on a multitude of factors, not just KD and win-loss, but you're also factoring how you played as a team. Even if you're a really good player who's been on a lot of wins, if you're not someone who really helps out their team, why exactly should we be with you? That's what I think we should do, is factor those things in, run those numbers. I'm not going to make a formula for you guys and whatnot, because I don't want to give you guys that headache while watching this video. I know it's already long, but the point is that the competitive playlists run off of the arena rank system based on MMR, and then when it comes to MMR for social playlists, that's how they line you up as well. If you can kind of get the idea of what I'm trying to describe here. Again, it's just my take on it. Not everyone's going to agree to this. It's just my kind of design of what I think, you know, would actually be a good way of going about it. I just think the idea is like you could be like a 65 diamond player or something like that. That's how it goes. It goes up, it never goes down. It never goes down. It never caps out. It can just keep going up, it can keep going down. It's infinite. There's no like actual way of stopping it, and the way it does it matches people up, especially when it comes to the social playlist, is it's just matching one-on-one scale. You know, if some guy's a 45, it's going to match someone that's maybe a 47 to a 44 or something like that, something close on par with each other, and it just bases individually. So even if it's a big team battle, it's going to do a one-on-one. Every person that's put in the playlist has to match up with that. So you have people that are like maybe 12s and 47s and so forth. They're going to line up with 12s and 47s. It's going to that's the way it's going to equal out. So not only does it have to equal a total amount, but each individual person has to have a similar rank in that system in the MMR. And that's how it does with the social playlist versus the arena rank system. Can only line you up with people in that same branch of ranks, and that you can only have people that are within the same MMRs across the board. Personally, me, I think that would solve a lot of the issues here. I know, again, not everyone's going to agree with that. I totally get that. The reason why I think that they should do this whole no MMR cap limit and that it should be displayed is I think the best example of a game that I have ever played that had a good system of lining people up competitively, and it was always competitive. It was never a dull moment, because every time it came down to the wire, both teams being so good that it never actually came down to, you know, like one team drastically winning with no competition, was a game called Medal of Honor 2010. I know a lot of people probably never heard of it. Maybe a few people have, maybe a few people played it, but that's what they actually did. What was really interesting was they matched up everyone's ranks one-on-one scale all the way down, and because of that, when it came down, I don't know how they did the math, how they factored in what number you were, but they had like numbers that went up into the thousands, and there was people that got up to like I think 3,000, and some people even on the verge of 4,000. Again, that system went up and down and never reset. Maybe, you know, it resets in Halo Infinite, I don't know, but that was really cool. That what they did in Medal of Honor 2010 was they had this number system and they match everyone up one-on-one. So if you were a 1,150, you lined up with someone else that was a 1,150, and when it came to a whole team, you lined up one-on-one scale, and that's how the way they kind of did it. It worked very well, and obviously people quit, and there was all sorts of issues like that. I think it had joined in progress, so you know there was other things that factored in there, but the thing was that they really push that when they started matches. They made sure that everyone lined up pretty well, and that's why it always came down close to a tie every match. There was never a moment where it felt like you were easily winning. It was always a struggle with every match. It was always just close calls every time. It didn't matter which playlist you played. If it was combat mission, team assault, skirmish, sector control, objective raid, it didn't matter. It was all the same when they did that. It always felt balanced, and it always ended in close matches, which was really cool. How the teeter-tottering effect, you know, second you're starting to win, the next thing you're starting to lose, then you're starting to win again. Oh man, it came down to the wire every time. You had like the top 10% on the leaderboards would always be like these high rankers, and then you'd have people, you know, maybe 50-60% were kind of in the medium section, and then the bottom section was all the bad ranked players. So you knew where people were, how good they actually were when they stacked up, and it was actually pretty accurate on the leaderboards. You knew who was actually good and who was actually bad based on their numbers. They really did a good job at that. I don't know how they did it again. I don't know what the numbers were, how they ran that, but that system worked beautifully when it came to matches. It came down to the wire every time. So either with or without resetting the MMR, we need to have an MMR system that is infinite, that can keep going up and down, and that's used both in social and competitive ranking. And the CSR is an arena rank system that only can can line you up in people that match up with your MMR that are in the same arena same arena rank system, so that they can't you know, be like a diamond 200 against a silver 200. You have to all be silvers. You all have to have, you know, in the general 200 or 300, wherever you are close to that, it needs to be in that general bracket. And I think if they do something like that, that would actually be a good way to go. No caps, so it gets rid of all the exploit issues, and fix the system, how the MMR works, in a way so that there's no way to get stuck. Level capping. I think if they can do something like this, it would be perfect. And so that little Billy son of a bitch can't, you know, go to his mom and dad and get some money to buy a system or buy a account that, you know, gets him, you know, the like max rank. He can't. He will have to actually earn it.
Was ist das denn? Oh mein Gott, was ist geschehen? Ich lerne mich verspielen!
High five! Great!
A great success!
And that will actually get rid of the boosters. It'll get rid of a lot of the issues that happen, and I think this would actually be a pretty good idea. As much as I love, you know, the 50 system, I thought it was really cool, you know, when people got their 50s. The problem was there was just a lot of cheating, a lot of glitches, a lot of exploits, and I think that with making it infinite, it's gonna make it so that you can't actually do that, which is perfect if they do something like that. If they do that, there's no way that people can, you know, use those exploits, because there's no point. And the thing is, if you try to cheat and try to give yourself like some stupid high rank, all you're gonna get when you go to matchmaking is every tough son of a bitch that's in the game. So if they decide to, you know, oh, I'm gonna give myself a 250 rank, if someone actually were to hack it, but they probably get caught. But if they do, what's gonna happen if they give themselves a 250? They're gonna line up with every other hacker in there. It's gonna screw with them. Or if they try to, you know, give themselves, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna rank myself a 65 or 70. You know, make it look somewhat legit. Well, guess what? When you go to matchmaking, every person is gonna beat up on you, because all those real 60s and 70s that earned it are gonna completely just demolish you and whatnot. So all those annoyances of cheating and buying your ranks aren't going to help you. It's just going to hurt you in the end, which is why I think it'd actually be a pretty good idea. And so that way, with the ranking system being like this, there is still that sense of pride and accomplishment when you win. And no, not the sense of pride and accomplishment of buying shit to win, like that son of a bitch in Battlefront 2, who probably bought his 50 when Halo 3 was around, because that
You've got a dirty, whorish mouth. That's what you have.
I don't usually like to use my big voice.
Anyways, so back to my point here. I want, you know, the competitive players to still have bragging rights. I want them to, you know, be able to say, hey, yeah, I got a 67 rank and whatnot, and be able to, you know, brag about it, but also be able to address the level locking, boosting, and people not wanting to play with their ranks because they don't want to lose it, but that there's still a point to play it, something they can show off, while at the same time they still have the arena ranking system that helps probably even make it more balanced on lining people up. I think this would actually be a really good idea. Obviously, it's not a concrete idea. I'm open to, you know, new changes and, you know, different thoughts on it. The MMR, you know, can probably instead be individual based, and CSR be team based, which I think that's how it should, you know, kind of go in a way when what I described. But, you know, again, it could all change to be, you know, CSR only arena rank, that it only bases off that, and it doesn't base off the MMR. Again, it could be anything. It could go on to a whole bunch of things, which that's where I'm going to end off this whole controversies here. This is just my take on it. You know, leave a like if you like this video. If you liked what I had to say, comment down below if you have some opinions on how you think the competitive ranking system should work. You know, and also subscribe to my channel if you want more controversies videos. I got a ton of these, and I got more of these that are going to be coming along later on. So, you know, just you know, hit notifications notifications if you want to get notified when they come around, and also if you want to help, you know, make these videos a little bit easier for to make it happen, definitely donate to my Patreon. It will make it a lot easier, a lot more helpful. But again, that's just my take on it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's a pretty lengthy one here. I'm glad we didn't end up getting to an hour long like my Battle Royale video. But yeah, I'm going to be covering a lot of other controversies. I got a ton of these. I got a list of them because the Halo community has been around for a while, and there's just a lot to talk about when it comes to all these controversies. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for watching. Again, rate, comment, subscribe, and you all have a great day. See you later. Peace.
Yeah.